showing you 440, 446. What are those?
Those are the cardboard slide mailers. I think I briefly described earlier that we place those glass slides with hairs mounted on them to protect the slides.
And 446A, Your Honor, be the back of those.
All right, 446A.
Thank you. And is that are those the backs of those slide mailers in 446?
Yes.
And now, if I may, 446B,
446B.
slides themselves. All right, are those the slides that you created for the hair and fiber that you recovered, that you've just described from the blue knit cap?
Yes.
And also, do we see another slide in there that was created for hair and fiber recovered from the cap found in the Bronco?
Yes. The monitor's a little blurrier. I could point out which slide exactly. They're all marked with item numbers on them, which would identify which item they came from.
Okay, we're going to zoom in for you.
And it would be on the white part, not the black. There you go.
Is that as good as we can do? That's it. Okay, I'm going to give it to you. Do you want to take a break, Your Honor? Okay. I'm going to let you look at it at the break and tell us when you come back.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our first afternoon recess. Please remember all my admonitions to you, and we'll be in recess for 15 minutes. Let me see counsel at the sidebar with the court reporter, please. All right, back on the record in the Simpson matter. All parties are again present. Counsel, I had one of my law clerks read the book that we asked two of the jurors to surrender to us for the moment, and I have a one-page synopsis of the offending pages, which might help you in your review this evening.
Thank you for your comment, Your Honor.
All right, anything else before we invite the jurors to join us? All right, let's have the jurors, please. Deputy McNair. To read my books for me. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, yesterday I asked Mrs. Robertson to collect a book that two of you were reading because it was brought to my attention that there might be a problem. The attorneys have asked for the opportunity just to read the book over the evening hours to see if there's still a problem, and I'll get back to you on that. Okay? All right, Ms. Brockbank, would you resume the witness stand, please? All right, good afternoon again, Ms. Brockbank. You're reminded you were still under oath, and Ms. Clark, you may continue with your direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon. Okay, we left off with the slide that you created from the hair and trace you recovered from item number 38, the ski cap?
Yes.
And 446B. On your monitor. A little tired?
Sorry.
Okay, can you tell us which of the slides are the ones that contain the hair and fiber from the ski cap, number 38?
The top row of 6 slides, all of those, and on the bottom row, the first 4 from left to right, and then the last 2 from left to right, in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. Those 2 were from the other cap, item 27.
Okay. And you said you made 11 slides, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And what did you package that slide in?
I packaged the 11th slide in a single slide mailer. It happens to be a blue plastic slide mailer, and that's it in the lower right-hand corner of this overhead.
All right. And for the record, Your Honor, she's now looking at the photograph that comes from the board number 436 for item number 113.
Yes, this is the blue small slide carrier that she referred to earlier.
Correct. Thank you, Your Honor. All right. Now, when you mounted those hairs onto the slide, those were hairs that you recovered, you took out of the bindles you had created on a previous day, correct?
I took them out of the bindles at the time that I mounted them.
Right.
Yeah.
But the bindles, the items you had collected in the bindles, you'd collected on the 21st?
Yes, 21st and 23rd.
Okay. And you had notations on some of those bindles as to how many hairs were contained in them?
Yes, I did.
When you took them out and mounted them on the slides, I believe you indicated to us that was in per mount, correct?
Yes,
So this time, the hairs remained on the slides, is that right?
that's correct.
Did you change the number reflected on the bindle that you had initially put on there for the number of hairs it contained when you put them on the slides?
I made a notation on each bindle that I mounted X number on, in per mount. And for each bindle, you know, that X was different.
Right. Did you make that notation on the bindles or in your notes?
on the bindles.
Did you indicate that, did you change the number of hairs that should be found inside the bindle when you did that?
I don't believe I changed the number. I just made a note that so many hairs from that total number were mounted in per mount.
Okay. So that if the bindle you initially had, say, there was one bindle that we've shown on the board that said 7 blonde hairs, for example.
Right.
If you took, that was put on there when you first collected that from the cap, correct?
That was put on in one of the water exams, when I performed one of the water exams.
And then on the date, on this date, on the 27th, when you actually mounted the hairs from that bindle onto slides in per mount, where they would stay,
Right.
did you change that number, 7 blonde hairs, to show 0 blonde hairs, or however many were remaining in the bindle?
No, I believe I noted on that particular one that all hairs were mounted in per mount.
So then did you still maintain the bindle itself, though,
Yes,
even though it was empty?
yes.
So then when that particular bindle that said 7 blonde hairs from the ski cap were mounted onto per mount, and you carried everything to the FBI, that particular bindle would be empty.
Yes, it would.
And that bindle, did it go to the outside of the cap or the inside?
The one containing the 7 light-colored hairs were from the exterior.
All right. Was there also, for the exterior of the cap, was there one bindle marked 4 dark brown to black hairs?
Yes, there was.
And did you also mount some of those hairs?
Yes, I did.
Did you change the number of hairs that you put on the bindle when they were originally counted by you?
No, again, I didn't change the number. I just made a notation on the bindle that, in that case, I believe 3 hairs were mounted in per mount. 1 with a root still remained in the bindle.
All right, so for the hairs that were no longer in the bindle that had been counted and noted on the bindle, they were now preserved permanently in slides.
Yes,
The slides that you've identified?
yes.
After completing the mounting of the hair and fiber recovered from the exterior of the cap on slides in per mount, did you examine hairs from the interior of the cap?
Yes, I did.
And before you did that, did you change paper or gloves?
Yes, change paper and gloves.
Same thing?
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes.
And before doing that, before changing paper and gloves, did you examine the paper to see if there was any remaining hair or trace on it?
Yes.
And did you examine your gloves to see if there were any remaining hair and trace on it?
Yes.
And did you see any?
No.
With respect to the interior of the cap, after you examined the hairs, well, actually before, what did you do with the bindle that went to the interior of the cap hairs? Did you mount any of those?
Yes.
Tell us what you did.
I, working at a workstation where we have that stereo microscope, the low power microscope, I had a piece of white paper underneath the microscope. I removed the bindle from the interior of the cap, from the paper. I removed the paper bindle from the coin envelope, opened the bindle under the microscope, and observed the hairs, separating those without roots from those with roots, and I mounted the hairs that did not have roots permanently in per mount.
Now, how many slides did you mount from the exterior trace and fiber and hair from the cap?
From the exterior, there were a total of 7 that were mounted on slides by me.
And how many slides were created?
Let me just look here. Exterior. From the exterior, there were 5 slides,
And from the interior?
6 slides.
After you completed the mounting, again, the mounting process, was it the same as you just earlier described to us from the exterior?
Yes.
After you completed the mounting of the 6 slides for the hairs recovered from the interior of the cap, did you examine hairs from that you recovered from the cap found in the Bronco, item number 27?
Yes.
And before you did so, was it the same preparations?
Yes.
Clean paper, clean gloves?
Yes.
And you're wearing a white lab coat this whole time?
Yes.
By the time, now when you went to open the bindle containing the hair and fiber recovered from the cap from the Bronco, where were the slides and the bindles that you had earlier been working with regarding the ski cap, item number 38?
The bindles had already been placed back into the coin envelope, and the coin envelope back into the analyzed evidence envelope. Clean paper was placed down, and then item 20, well, the hairs that were removed from the other cap, item 27, that coin envelope was taken out, opened up on that white paper, and the paper bindle was removed, and then I mounted the hairs without roots from that paper bindle in the same manner, looking at them under the stereoscope, mounting those without the roots on 2 slides.
And those were the slides you've earlier identified on 446B?
Yes.
Now, when you got to strike that. All right, when you completed the mounting on June the 27th, what did you do with the remaining analyzed evidence envelope containing the coin envelopes, which contained the bindles, and all the slides that you'd created? Where did you put all that stuff?
I, again, replaced everything back into my evidence locker and locked it.
And the slides, how were they kept?
We actually have a tray, a cardboard tray with little cutouts, the shape of slides in this tray. It's about the size of a legal pad of paper. About this size, but it's
8.5 by
about
14?
a legal size. Yeah,
8.5 by
8.5 by 14. That's about right. And it holds 20 slides. And again, it has little cutouts to hold slides, and I had them all in one of those.
And was that kept locked in your locker as well?
Yes.
And is that slide tray covered in some manner?
It's it has it has the cutouts for the slides. There's 2 rows of 10, and then it has 2 little flaps that fold over and cover those surfaces.
On June 29th, did you book all of these items of hair and trace recovered from the gloves and the cap and the ski hat?
Let me just check. Yes, I did. That's when I acquired those property numbers, 110 through 113. And I booked them and basically checked them right back out again because I was still working on them a little bit. Thought
So
I might.
when you booked them, what actually physically happened?
What physically happened is that I basically assigned a number, those numbers 110 through 113, to the hairs and fibers removed from those 4 items, 9, 27, 37, and 38. And I write a report, a property report, which lists each of those items and what they're removed from, and turn that into our evidence control unit. They list these as next in order as far as booked evidence, and I have the analyzed evidence envelope. At that point, they put a barcode on that analyzed evidence envelope, and basically, since I wanted it back, they scan it in with a barcode reader, and they scanned it right back out to me.
So you just stood there while they did that?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. And then you took it back with you
Yes, I did.
to where?
To the trace unit, and again, secured it in my evidence locker.
Now, on June 30th, did you examine the hairs and fibers that you had removed from the Bundy and Rockingham gloves?
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
The next day, on June the 30th, did you take out the envelopes that contained, the coin envelopes that contained the bindles holding the hairs and fibers from the Bundy and Rockingham gloves?
Yes, I did.
Now, this is not the gloves themselves, correct? You didn't touch them.
That's correct, I didn't.
And what was the manner in which you examined the hair and fiber recovered from the gloves on that date?
On that day, I was back to doing water mounts again, and I mounted them in water and made observations on what I observed and wrote a report to that effect.
Okay. Now, did you examine each bindle separately?
Yes, I did.
And did you change the paper underneath the scope between each
I changed the
examination?
paper underneath, and I changed my gloves in between each item,
For each bindle?
each bindle.
And examine the paper and your gloves after the examination of each bindle?
Yes,
And put down new paper and new gloves before examining the next bindle?
yes.
When you completed your examination of the contents of a bindle, did you place it back into that bindle?
Yes, I did.
And did you fold it up and close it in some manner?
Yes, I folded the bindle in that tri-fold method that I described earlier, and then placed the bindle back into the coin envelope.
And did you close the coin envelope?
Yes, I did. Just, again, folding over the top flap.
And did you do that, did you close everything up in that manner before moving on to the next bindle in each instance?
Yes.
Were any of the hairs from the gloves permanently mounted by you in per-mount?
No, they were not.
So all of them that were in bindles remain in bindles?
That's correct.
All right, now on, and then did you lock it back up in your locker?
Yes.
On July 12th, 1994, did you collect the exemplar that is a hair sample from the defendant?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell us exactly what it was you did?
Yes. Basically collecting an exemplar, what we call an exemplar, or a representative hair sample from any person, involves collecting hairs from all areas of that person's head. You don't simply go up to a person and yank a handful of hairs. It doesn't work that way. What an exemplar is a representative sample. So if somebody was to yank a handful of hairs from my head right here, they'd be missing a whole lot of really long hairs that are in the back. So that's the whole idea of getting a representative sample. You want to get hairs from the front of the head, the top of the head, the back of the head, and both sides. So you cover all the different hair types that might be on a person's head. Different people, their hair may show a lot of variation. So it's really important to get a representative sample. What I did with Mr. Simpson is just that. He was seated at a table, and I laid out a large white paper bundle in front of him. And using a comb, I combed through his hair, getting a lot of loose hairs from all areas of his head, those areas that I named, the front, the top, the back, and both sides. And also gently just pulling, grasping some hairs between my fingers and pulling, getting some hairs that way also. It's important in a representative sample that you do get the roots as well. So we don't cut hair samples, we do pull them and comb them. And once I collected an adequate sample, I folded that paper bundle, observing it, making sure there was nothing on the bundle, on the exterior, anything that might get inside. Folded it up, placed it into a kind of like a coin envelope, but a little larger, just a manila envelope along with the comb that I used. And then I sealed that envelope. Actually, I didn't seal it at that time. I sealed it a little bit later. But placed that into an analyzed evidence envelope that I had and went back to the lab.
Now, prior to the date of July the 12th, you had not collected any hairs from the head of Mr. Simpson, correct?
That's correct.
And as of June the 12th, had you already collected the hair and the trace and the fiber from the ski cap, the cap found in the Bronco, and both gloves?
Yes.
And so, that hair and fiber was already sealed up and locked away in your locker at the time you went to collect the defendant's hairs on July the 12th?
Yes.
Show you a photograph that is already on the chain board marked 436 for item number 122. All right, do you recognize that item?
Yes. On the left is the analyzed evidence envelope that I placed this item into. In the middle is that laboratory envelope I was kind of having trouble describing. And on the far right, in the lower left or lower right corner, is that large paper bundle that I described, and that actually contains the hairs that I removed from his head.
Okay. And then that bundle was placed into the laboratory envelope
Yes.
by you?
Yes.
Did you seal the bundle?
No.
You just folded it?
Yes.
And the laboratory envelope that you placed the bundle into, how did you close that?
At the time I collected it, I just folded over the flap and placed it into the analyzed evidence envelope that I was carrying and took it back to the laboratory.
And what happened then?
Well, I was working, should I explain a little? I felt it necessary to count the hairs because of the court order that I was working under had a ceiling number of the number of hairs I was supposed to collect. So I took everything back to the laboratory and under a stereo microscope, laid out white paper, opened up the bundle and counted the hairs that were in this bundle. They totaled 93. And I closed the bindle back up, replaced it into the laboratory envelope. I then sealed that envelope, placed that into the analyzed evidence envelope, and I sealed that envelope. And I made the notations before placing everything. I made notations on the envelopes as to the item number, which was 122. And then once it was sealed, I took it to our evidence control unit, wrote a report, and booked it into property. And then it was stored in the evidence control unit from that point on.
Okay, can we zoom in on the analyzed evidence envelope? All right, and there on the top portion of the envelope, you see the identifying information you just described for us with the item number 122
Yes,
and your name.
yes.
Can we drop down? Move over. All right, in the lower right-hand corner of the laboratory envelope, do you see a date and time?
Yes, I do.
What does that indicate to you?
That's a date and time that I placed on the envelope at the time I collected the sample from Mr. Simpson, 7/12/94, and the time 9:50 a.m.
Now, when you took the sample back to your lab for the purpose of counting the hairs, did you make sure to go into a clean area?
Yes,
Was that done in your trace unit?
yes,
Did you have gloves on?
yes,
Were they clean?
yes,
Were you wearing a lab coat?
yes,
And was there clean paper down?
yes.
Were there any other items of evidence from this case around at the time that you did that?
No,
Were there any other items of hair or trace that had already been collected from the evidence items in this case at the time that you did that?
no.
That was the only item you were looking at? And that was
Yes.
present?
Yes.
Are these your usual precautions?
Yes, they are.
Now, after you had the, both the laboratory envelope and the analyzed evidence envelope sealed, okay, you said you booked it?
Yes,
You booked it immediately the same day?
yes, I did.
And where did you book it?
Into our evidence control unit.
So did this evidence item 122 ever go into your locker?
No, never did.
And did you ever open that sealed package before going to the FBI in August?
No,
Did you examine any other items of evidence pertaining to this case on that date?
I don't believe so. Let me just do a quick check here.
You're referring to your notes to refresh your memory?
Yes, I
All
am.
right.
No, I did not.
This was the only thing you did on this case that day?
Yes.
All right, on July 22nd, did you examine the piece of carpet marked as item number 33? July 22nd?
Yes, I did.
And how was that item packaged?
It was, as I first observed it, it was wrapped in white paper and sealed with that brown tape.
And I believe you earlier indicated to us it was completely covered and enclosed.
Yes.
How did you open it that day?
I cut the packaging material and removed it from inside over a clean piece of white paper, wearing gloves.
Okay. You read my mind. And what did you do with it? What kind of examination did you perform?
I was asked to look at it with two other people, Colin Yamauchi and John Taggart, our lab photographer, and try to assist them, well, mostly assist John in photographing a bloody area on that carpet that was that was there. They wanted documented using different light sources to see if they could enhance what appeared to be a print area in blood using various light sources.
Okay, showing you again photograph number 441 that was previously marked. You could tell us if you see the area. We've already printed this out. Is this the area you're talking about that we previously circled and initialed?
Yes, in the upper left-hand corner of just where the rubber mat area meets the carpet. In that area was a what appeared to be like a bloody print of some sort.
All right, and then was it photographed in your presence?
Yes, it was.
And after that, what did you do?
Repackaged it, put it back into the packaging that we had removed it from, taped up the openings that we had made in the package, and then returned it to the box in the serology freezer, which we had taken it out of.
And when you wrapped it up again, was it completely enclosed in the paper and the tape?
Yes.
Was any portion of the carpet showing through?
No.
Was it flat or was it rolled up?
I believe it was rolled, like, it seems like it was kind of like a burrito, kind of rolled over twice. You know, the two ends were kind of rolled over. Mm-hmm. It was not flat, but I don't remember if it was like in half, like a taco, or kind of 3 times like a burrito. Bad analogy, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Now we get the picture, though.
But we do, yeah.
Well, good analogy then.
Clear to me. Okay, when it was folded that way, was it folded so that the carpet side was on the inside or on the outside?
The carpet was on the inside.
And then it was returned to the box in the freezer?
Yes.
Did you examine any of the items, any of the bindles containing hair and trace that were in your locker on that day?
No, I did not.
Were any of the other items of evidence taken out of their respective bags or packaging in the presence of that piece of carpet?
No, they were not.
And did you even open any of the bindles you had created containing hair and trace on that day?
No, I did not.
Now directing your attention to July 27th. On that date, did you examine clothing that had been recovered from the bodies of Ronald Goldman and Nicole Brown?
Yes, I did.
And was that the first time you'd ever seen the clothing?
Yes, it was.
And where did you get it from that date?
It was taken from the serology freezer. It had been stored there in a box. And Colin and I together examined these items in the serology lab, not in the trace lab.
And why is that?
Probably a few reasons, but mainly because the box had been stored in serology. They had an empty workbench, and that's where we worked. But in addition, if possible, it's nice to examine clothing items from a victim in a separate, completely separate location than, say, items found at a crime scene. Or I think that's what I want to say.
In a separate room from items that might be associated with the suspect?
Yes, that's what I wanted to say.
All right. Now, how were the items of clothing for Ronald Goldman and Nicole Brown packaged when you recovered them from the serology freezer?
Each item of clothing was individually packaged in a paper bag, which had been folded over and taped closed. And each of those paper bags was inside of a larger box marked to contain those items.
And were they all of the individual bags taped shut?
Yes, they were.
Which item, if you know, did you begin by examining?
I examined, excuse me, item number 79, which are the blue jeans from Ronald Goldman. I examined those first.
All right. And before you began the examination, was it the usual preparations, clean paper, clean gloves, lab coat?
Yes.
And what method did you use to examine the jeans of Ronald Goldman for hair and trace evidence?
I began by the same method that I had used for the other items, picking off what I could observe. But I also, in this case, used a large spatula to actually scrape the items down, at least for the blue jeans and for an item I examined later, the shirt, because they were very heavily soiled with debris, be it blood, dirt, plant debris, and hairs and fibers. They were very heavily soiled with those items. So I used a scraping method in addition to that picking off method.
And when you say scraping, how is that? With your hand again?
No, in this case I used a stainless steel spatula. It's just like a spatula you might use in your kitchen, a large flat blade about 10, 12 inches long with a wooden handle on the end. It's a little larger than something you might use in your kitchen, really. But the item is held in one hand. That's our method. We don't have a real fancy setup. But we hold it in one hand and then scrape it, and the scrapings will fall down on the white paper that we've set up underneath. And then when we're done with that scraping process, we fold it like I did before, get that little funnel effect, tap the sides so that all the debris falls down into one localized area to make it a little simpler to put into that paper bundle.
And that was the procedure you used for the jeans?
Yes.
I'll show you a photograph that has been placed onto the chain board marked People's 436 for item number 79, and ask if you recognize the item shown in that photograph as the jeans you've just described for Ronald Goldman.
Yes.
John? All right, and did you package it all into the bindle for one bindle?
Yes, all in one bundle.
Okay. After you created the bindle, did you examine the paper underneath to make sure there was no residual hair and trace or
Yes.
soil?
Yes, and there was none.
And your gloves?
Yes.
Did you fold up the bindle
Yes.
and make some notation on it?
Yes, I did.
Do you recall what item number you gave?
That became item number 161.
And what did you do with the bindle after you made made notations on it?
Placed it in an envelope and made notations on that as well.
A coin envelope?
I believe it was a coin envelope, and then placed that into an analyzed evidence envelope.
Okay. Now, the notations you made on this bindle for the hair and trace and debris from the jeans, do you currently recall what those notations were?
Probably just hairs, fibers, debris removed from jeans, item number 79, by me, SAB, on that date. Something to that effect. It's my general routine.
And did you make similar notations on the coin envelope into which you placed that bindle?
Yes.
Did you put any identifying numbers on the coin envelope or the bindle or both?
Identifying numbers?
DR number, item number?
Yes, I put the DR number. I did not put the item number until later. I generally put the item number that I'm booking it as, the new item number, on the day that I actually do the booking. In this case, there were quite a number of people booking evidence at different times, so we had to kind of coordinate our efforts really well. So I would get a group of evidence together that I was processing, process the evidence, and then I'd book, say, a group of evidence all in one day. And so I'd get a series of item numbers that were available on that particular day. And that didn't happen on the 27th. It happened sometime later.
Okay. Ultimately, it got item number 161?
Yes.
And after you completed the examination, packaged up the bindle in the coin envelope and analyzed evidence envelope, did you change paper?
Yes, I did.
And did you change gloves?
Yes.
And then what did you examine?
I next examined item number 80, which were 2 socks from Ronald Goldman.
And by what method?
Just the picking off and gently scraping with my hands.
And did you collect all of that debris into a bindle as well?
Yes.
And did it get an item number eventually?
Yes.
And what was that?
Item number 162.
And after you completed the examination and collection of debris from the socks, did you examine the paper underneath?
Yes.
Any hair and trace or residue on it?
After I had removed everything, no.
And did you check your gloves?
Yes.
Was there anything on them?
No.
Did you change paper and gloves?
Yes, I did.
And then what did you do?
I then examined the shirt, item number 81, which was the shirt from Ronald Goldman.
I'm going to show you what is number 81 on the chain board, marked Peoples 436, and ask you if this is the item you're referring to now as the shirt for Ronald Goldman.
Yes, it is.
And that's the item that you examined on July 27th?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, did you cause this item to be photographed before you began collecting hair and trace from it?
Yes, I did.
And what did you do in that regard?
Basically laid it out like you saw it in that photograph on a piece of white paper and had the photographer, John Taggart, photograph that item. And I believe he did close-ups of the tags as well. It's my normal routine on clothing items. I'll have him do an overall photo of the item and then a close-up of a tag if there is a tag on that item.
Now, were you doing this alone or was someone helping you?
I was working in concert with Colin Yamauchi. I removed trace evidence from each of these items, and then Colin checked them for body fluids.
And what was Colin wearing?
Similar to myself, he was wearing a lab coat and he had gloved hands.
A white lab coat?
Yes,
Latex gloves like yours?
yes,
And was he changing gloves between each item?
yes, he was.
Now, what method of collection did you use for the shirt of Ronald Goldman?
Again, the picking off method, and in addition to that, scraping with that spatula, which I described, which I had cleaned in between samples
How?
with ethanol, which we have in little squirt bottles, basically, in the lab. I squirted it down over a sink because there was a little bit of maybe like blood and dirt debris on it, and cleaned that off, made sure there were no hairs or fibers or any other debris remaining before I used it on the shirt.
So you made sure that that spatula was both sterilized and clean of any hair and fiber before you used it?
Yes.
And then by what method did you begin the examination of the shirt for hair and fiber? What was the first method you used?
The picking off method,
And then after that,
then the spatula scraping.
any other method you used?
No.
And then when the debris fell onto the paper underneath the shirt, what did you do?
Again, creasing the paper, tapping on the sides to get that funnel effect. Got all of the debris in one localized area, placed that in a paper bindle. The paper bindle then went into a coin envelope after making some notations on it. And then the coin envelope went into an analyzed evidence envelope.
Now, with respect to the item number for this particular item, do you have a current recollection of what that is?
The debris that was removed from the shirt was
Yes.
booked as item number 163.
Showing you the item number 163 from the chain board, People's 436. Can you tell us if you recognize what's in this photograph?
Yes, let's see. Up above there appears to be a box, but off to the left is the coin envelope, which I've marked 163 SAB with the DR number. There it is. And to the right of that and down is the paper bindle, which again is marked with the DR number, the item number, my initials SAB, and the notation hairs, fibers, debris removed from shirt, item number 81 by SAB on 7/27/94 at 13:50 hours.
Okay. Now
That's
that I also-
military time.
Military.
Yeah.
And I also see in the upper right-hand corner of this bindle that's now being focused on Q23 and looks like DWD.
Yes.
And what is that?
Those are notations placed on there by Doug Diedrich of the FBI lab.
And did he place that notation on there in your presence?
Yes, he did.
We could move up again.
That's a bindle that he apparently prepared. I didn't prepare that one.
Okay.
Yes, that'll be stricken.
Actually, just the fact that she didn't prepare it.
Yes, that'll remain.
Thank you. Now, backing up, so the bindle you prepared is the bottom bindle, correct?
That's correct.
And the coin envelope as well?
Yes.
And that is in fact the bindle that lower bindle is in fact the bindle that into which you placed all of the debris from the shirt of Ronald Goldman?
That's correct.
All right, after you collected everything into the bindle, folded it up, and put it into the coin envelope, did you close the coin envelope?
Yes, I folded over the flap and closed it, placed that into the analyzed evidence envelope,
Now-
set it aside.
And
Sorry.
then did, I'm sorry, it's getting late. Then did Colin take over?
Yes.
Did you see what he did?
I was standing by. I wasn't, hanging on every little movement that he made, but he examined it for body fluids. I don't know if he may have cut out a sample. I'm not sure.
When he was done, were you still there?
Yes.
What happened, when then what?
We both initialed the tag on the shirt, both put our initials on it, repackaged it in the bag that it had come out of, refolded the bag, taped it closed, and initialed that as well.
And what did you do with the coin envelope containing the bindle that contained the hair and debris from the shirt of Ron Goldman?
That was placed in an analyzed evidence envelope and set aside.
Now, where was the defendant's hair sample that you had taken on earlier on July 12th at this time?
That was still in our property unit, the evidence control unit.
And where was that in relation to where you were with Mr. Yamauchi when you were collecting the hair and fiber from Ron Goldman's shirt?
It's actually outside the lab. It's part of the lab complex itself, but it's the serology unit is a separate room within a large building, and the evidence control unit is another room within that large building. And it's quite if you walked at a fast pace, maybe a 30-second walk away or a minute walk away, but it's a little ways.
All right, what was the next item that you examined?
The next item examined was the dress from Nicole, which was item number 86.
And did you make the usual preparations before your exam?
Yes.
Clean everything?
Clean paper, clean gloves.
Spatula.
And
No.
so throw that one in? All right, and what method did you use for the removal of hair and trace from Ms. Brown's dress?
The picking off method and then gently scraping with my hand.
Before you began that, did you cause the dress to be photographed?
Yes.
I am showing you here a dress. This comes from the photograph on the chain board. That's People's 436. This is for item number 86. Can you tell us if you recognize what you see here?
Yes, that's the dress, item number 86.
That you examined?
Yes.
I'm informed that the photograph that's now up on the Elmo is not exactly in the same angle as the one on the chain board, so I'm going to ask the witness a few more questions. Can we zero in on you? Thank you.
All right, thank you, counsel.
Can you step down then and make sure that the item that's contained on the chain board is in fact the same dress that we're talking about, the one for Nicole Brown?
They just stipulated to that, counsel.
Oh, I thought they just did for that photograph, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Same. Thank you. All right, and you indicated, I think you used the picking method.
Yes.
You didn't use a spatula?
No.
Why not?
The dress was not heavily soiled like Ron Goldman's clothes were, so I didn't find it necessary to use a spatula on that.
And did you create a bindle for the hair and trace and debris from this dress as well?
Yes, I did.
Did you examine the paper underneath when you were done and your gloves?
Yes, I did.
Any residue left?
No.
Did you make some notations on the bindle?
Yes, I did.
What was that?
I believe it was just, hairs, fibers, debris removed from dress, item number 86 by SAB on 7/27/94 at a certain date, or time, I mean.
Okay. Now, the item we're showing you now on the Elmo had the number 164 in it. It's the photograph taken from the chain board, People's 436 for item number 164. And you see a coin envelope with writing on it. Is that your writing?
Yes, it is.
And is that the writing on the coin envelope that contained the bindle that contained the debris from Nicole's dress?
Yes, it is.
And that indicates, again, the date and your collection and the time?
Yes, it does.
And is that the item number that you gave the debris from Nicole's dress?
Item number 164, yes.
And do you see the coin envelope that you created for this item? The bindle that you packaged the debris in?
Yes, the bindle is to the right, and that middle, there it is, marked Q24 DWD in this photograph.
And is that writing created by you?
No.
Who was it created by?
Doug Diedrich of the FBI.
In your presence?
Yes.
Photograph, Your Honor, asked that it be marked People's
447? 447?
447? Thank you, Your Honor. Showing you 447, Ms. Brockbank. Do you see there the coin envelope bearing item number 164?
Yes, I do.
A coin envelope, I'm sorry. I meant bindle.
I see a bindle there marked 164 also.
Thank you. Is that your writing?
Yes, it is.
And is this the front side of the bindle that was created to contain the debris from Nicole's dress by you?
Yes.
Again, reflecting the date and time of collection?
Yes.
All right. After you packaged that bindle into the coin envelope, the bindle was closed, I take it?
Yes.
And then when you put it in the coin envelope, did you close the coin envelope?
Yes, again, folding over the top and then placing that in an analyzed evidence envelope.
Now, did you place it in its own analyzed evidence envelope or into the same one that contained the coin envelopes for Ron Goldman's clothing?
The same one.
Now, weren't you concerned that some hair or debris from Ron Goldman's bindles might somehow get into the bindles for Nicole's dress?
No.
Why not?
Well, the hair and debris is inside of a paper bindle, which is then inside of a coin envelope. It's never been my observation to see hairs or fibers come out of one bindle and envelope and into another envelope and then into another bindle. I've never seen that occur. It's never been a problem.
How do you position the coin envelopes inside the analyzed evidence envelope?
I position them standing up lengthwise, and I insert them with the top at the top and the bottom at the bottom, and into the analyzed evidence envelope, which is also vertical and standing up.
And do you keep it in that condition, everything standing up in your locker?
Yes, I do.
When you have it on the bench next to you, if you're going to open the bindle, say to examine them under the microscope, do you have it standing up as well?
I may have it standing up, or when I'm getting into it, it's going to be to the side. But when I set it aside, it's generally standing up.
And what did you examine after that?
After the dress?
Yes.
I examined the panties, item number 87.
And same procedures as before? Everything clean?
Yes.
Did you observe any loose hair or fiber on the panties, item number 87?
No, I did not.
So did you create any bindle for that item?
No, I did not.
And what did you do with the panties after your exam?
Colin examined them, Colin Yamauchi.
And then what?
And then we, put our initials on them, replaced the panties into the bag that they came from, folded the bag over, sealed it with a piece of tape, and initialed that as well.
And were the items that you've just described examined in the order that you've just testified to?
Yes, they were.
Did you make notes to keep track of what items were examined when?
Yes, I did.
Oh, when you opened up the box for the victim's clothing, did you see bags that were folded up and bundled together with twine?
Yes, I did.
Did you examine any of those bags?
Yes, I did.
Did you know what those bags were?
I had a good idea what they were.
Which is?
The bags that the clothing items were originally packaged in by the coroner. They had coroner's tape on them and had markings, dress, shirt. I don't remember all the exact markings that were on them, but they were marked accordingly.
Your Honor, I have here a photograph that I asked to be marked People's 448.
All right, 448.
Showing you People's 448. Ms. Brockbank, can you tell us if you recognize what's depicted in that photograph?
That appears to be those bundle of bags, which are wrapped with twine.
And is that, I'm sorry,
That was photographed.
is that the condition in which you found them inside the box?
Yes.
And for what purpose were you examining, did you want to examine those bags?
Just to see if there were any loose hairs or fibers inside those bags.
Did you find any?
inside one of the bags that was marked to contain shirt. Shirt was written on it. There were some loose fibers and some debris and a little piece of paper.
Okay. Now, when you were going through this collection process, can you tell us if you follow the same procedures as you had previously with respect to clean paper and gloves between each item?
Yes, for the bags, the same procedure was followed. Each bag, new paper was laid down, new gloves were applied, and they were examined. Just, visually by looking in them for any loose hairs, fibers, anything.
Now, you said that you saw that one of the bags did contain some debris.
Yes.
Only one?
Yes.
Now, when you examined the interior of the bags, did you just look in them, or did you look in them and then tap them to see if there was anything inside?
I basically just looked into them.
And the only one that you saw any debris in was the one for the shirt?
Yes.
How many shirts were there in this case? for the
Only one.
victims?
Only one.
And how did you package, what did you do to remove the debris from the bag containing the shirt?
I reached in and pulled the debris out and also tapped on the bag over a clean piece of paper.
And did you cause a bindle to be made to contain that debris?
Yes, I did.
And did you make notations on the bindle?
Yes, I did.
Showing you the photograph that's on the chain board, People's 436, for item number 165. Do you recognize what's in that photograph?
Yes. That is the coin envelope and the paper bindle.
That coin envelope, is that your writing on it?
Yes.
And is that the coin envelope you created to contain the debris contained in the bindle for the bag, the original bag for Ron Goldman's shirt?
Yes.
And at the bottom of that coin envelope, is that the description that you put down there?
Yes, it is.
And to the right of that, do you see a bindle there?
Yes.
Is that the bindle that you created to contain the debris from the bag that originally contained Ron's shirt from the coroner's office?
Yes.
And is 165 the item number that you gave it?
Yes, it is.
All right, now you also indicated that you created a bindle for the debris recovered from Nicole's dress.
Yes, I did.
Showing you a photograph for item 221 from People's 436. Can you tell us if you recognize what's shown in this photograph?
There's the analyzed evidence envelope.
It's a white envelope, says "to be frozen."
Yes.
You put it in that envelope?
Yes, I did.
And it has on it item number 221.
That's correct.
Is that the only item contained in that envelope then?
Yes, it is.
And was that your writing on it?
Yes, it is.
And to the right of that is a coin envelope that also has the item number 221.
Yes.
And at the bottom, there's some description there.
Yes. Hairs, fibers, debris removed from socks, interior and exterior. Item number 13 by SAB 8494, 1430 hours.
Okay. So that would have been the coin envelope for the socks, correct?
Yes.
Thought we already
You were
talked about
talking-
160.
We already did 164.
Correct.
Right. Your Honor, I think we have an error on the board.
164, item 164 was the coin envelope for item 86.
Right.
May I have a moment?
Okay.
Okay, let me direct your attention, Ms. Brockbank, to the chain board. We have item number 221 on the board, hair and trace, and it shows number 86 under that.
Can I get up?
Go ahead.
Yes, it does.
But in fact, number 86 is the item number for Nicole Brown's dress, correct?
That's correct.
And item number 221, that was the debris recovered from the socks of Ron Goldman?
Could you say that again?
Yes. Item number 221 was the debris recovered from the socks of Ron Goldman?
No, that's not correct.
What is,
Item number 221 was removed from the socks.
That's what I
I believe
said.
it was item number 13, not from Ron Goldman.
from someone else's socks?
Yes.
So that should be number 13 down here?
Let me just verify that. Yes, it should be number 13.
We jumped ahead then. I just corrected the board, Your Honor. We will patch it.
All right.
They put the incorrect item number. All right, after you created the bindle, you can take that down for now. We haven't gotten there yet. After you created the bindle for item number 165, that's the debris recovered from the shirt of Ronald Goldman's bag, the original bag. What did you do with the coin envelope into which you placed the bindle?
I placed that coin envelope in the analyzed evidence envelopes that I had there in the lab.
And was that in the same analyzed evidence envelope as the debris recovered from the dress and the jeans of Ron Goldman?
Yes.
And what did you do with that envelope after you completed your examinations on that day?
With the analyzed evidence envelope?
Mhm.
That was placed in my evidence locker and locked.
All right, now directing your attention to July 28th, 1994. On that date, did you examine a towel, item number 91, a piece of plastic, item number 93, and a shovel, item number 92, that were recovered from the defendant's Bronco?
The towel, number 91, and the plastic, number 93, yes, but the shovel, no. I examined that on a later date.
Okay. All right, with respect to the towel and the piece of plastic, items 91 and 93, where were those being kept?
They were in a box in our evidence control unit.
And how were they packaged?
They were each individually wrapped in paper bags, which were folded over and taped closed.
And were all items in the box folded over and taped closed?
All of the items that were bags in the box, yes.
Each of them individually bagged and taped closed?
Yes.
With respect to the towel, can you tell us what preparations you made for the examination of that item?
Again, the lab bench was covered with clean white paper, and clean gloves were applied, and then the item was removed from the paper bag over the white paper. Excuse me. I examined the towel, again using the picking method and gently scraping with my hand, my gloved hand, and collected that debris and placed it in a paper bindle, marked the bindle, place that bindle in a coin envelope, place that coin envelope in the analyzed evidence envelope.
And ultimately, what item number did that get?
That received item number 166.
Showing you the photograph that's contained on the People's Chain Board, People's 436, as item number 166. Do you recognize the handwriting?
Yes, I do.
Is that yours?
Yes.
Is that the coin envelope and the bindle that you created to contain the debris you collected from the towel found in the defendant's Bronco that you marked as item number 166?
Yes.
All right. After you finished your examination of the towel for hair and trace, was Colin Yamauchi present?
Yes, he was.
Did he do something after you were done?
Yes.
And what was that?
He examined it for body fluids.
Now again, is Mr. Yamauchi wearing latex gloves,
Yes, he is.
lab coat?
Yes.
And the item, the towel that we're talking about, photograph absolutely marked People's 449?
449.
Showing you People's 449. Is that the item number 91 towel that we've just described?
Yes, it is.
After you completed your examination for hair and trace of that item, did you examine a piece of plastic recovered from the defendant's Bronco?
Yes, I did.
And what were your preparations for that examination?
I changed the white paper that was covering the counter, applied new gloves, and then I removed the plastic bag from the paper bag that it was contained inside of, and examined it, collected some hairs and fibers from the outside of the bag, and some kind of flaky blue debris that was on the inside of the bag.
And again, this was beginning with clean paper and clean gloves.
Yes.
Okay. And you created a bindle for the debris that you found on the plastic?
Yes, I did.
I'm showing you the photograph that is on the People's Chain Board 436, marked as item number 167. Do you recognize the handwriting on the coin envelope and bindle shown here?
Yes, I do. That's my handwriting.
Is this the coin envelope and bindle that you created to contain the debris recovered from the plastic found in the defendant's Bronco?
Yes, it is.
And after the collection, did you fold up the bindle and place it back into the coin envelope?
Yes, I did.
And all of the same precautions with respect to the examination of the towel and the plastic that you had taken earlier, looking in between the examination of items on the paper for any residual debris?
Yes,
And on
those
your
are all
gloves?
followed. Yes.
Nothing changed?
No.
Can you zoom in on the bindle, please? Thank you, John. And is all of that information accurate? That is
Yes.
contained on the bindle?
Yes.
And that's all your handwriting?
Yes, it is.
When you completed the work there, did you place the bindle into the coin envelope?
Yes, I did.
And did you place that into the analyzed evidence envelope?
Yes, I did.
And where did you place the analyzed evidence envelope that contained the coin envelopes for the towel and the plastic respectively?
Into my evidence storage locker.
And was it standing up as you described earlier?
Yes.
All right, now you indicated that you examined the shovel. photograph of the plastic, Your Honor. People's 449? 450.
450.
10 minutes? All right, do you recognize the item shown here in People's 450?
Yes, I do.
And what is it?
That's that piece of plastic, item number 93.
And is that the piece of plastic that you examined and collected debris that was later marked as 167? Excuse me. Yes, 167.
Yes.
Now, you indicated that you had also, on a separate date, examined a shovel recovered from the defendant's Bronco.
Yes, I did.
And when was that?
That was on August 2nd of 94.
And in what condition was it packaged when you found it?
It was individually wrapped in white paper, and it was completely taped closed.
Completely covered?
Yes.
And where did you perform your examination of that item?
In the trace analysis unit, on the floor, laid out white paper on the floor to cover it up, and then opened up the package containing the shovel and examined it. And I removed some fibers and hairs from it.
Did you follow the same procedure as before?
Just picking, as far as gloves, I was wearing gloves, and I picked the hairs and fibers off of the shovel. I didn't scrape it.
Okay. Clean gloves and paper,
Yes.
lab coat. Yes?
Yes.
Did you create a bindle for the debris you recovered from the shovel?
Yes, I did.
Showing you the photograph that pertains to item number 169 on the People's Chain Board, 436. Can you tell us if you recognize what's depicted in that photograph?
Yes. The bindle that I placed the hairs and fibers is in the lower right-hand corner, and then the coin envelope is just to the right of the ruler.
And that's your writing?
Yes.
All the information on there is the information you put on there?
All except for some of the initials that you see in the queue number.
Would that be Mr. Diedrich's initials and his queue number?
Yes. And someone else's initials up near the top of the screen right now. I don't know whose initials those are.
And did you then fold up the bindle and put it into a coin envelope?
Yes.
And the coin envelope that you see in this photograph, are these the notations you made on the coin envelope for the bindle for the debris from the shovel?
Yes.
And where did you put the coin envelope for the shovel debris?
That was placed in the analyzed evidence envelope and, again, stored in my evidence locker.
And was that the same analyzed evidence envelope that had the coin envelopes from the towel and plastic, that's items 91 and 93?
Yes, it was. And actually, it wasn't stored in my evidence locker at that time. I wrote the property report for items 153 through 169 and booked all of that into our evidence control unit.
Okay.
So then from then on, it was stored there, not in my locker.
Okay, so on the date of August 2nd, all of these items 153 through 169 were booked?
Yes.
What about these coin envelopes, though? Once you send them to the evidence control unit for booking, you previously had those coin envelopes standing up in the analyzed evidence envelopes in your locker, correct?
Yes.
You couldn't be assured of that when it went to the evidence control unit, could you? That they would keep them standing up?
No.
So what did you do to make sure that the coin envelopes were kept secure?
Each of the coin envelopes were taped closed by me. When I assigned the item numbers, I went back into each coin envelope for items 153 through 169, wrote the new item number on the bindles and on the coin envelopes, sealed the coin envelopes closed with tape and initialed the tape and dated it. And then everything went back into the analyzed evidence envelope, and that was also sealed.
So before any of the items were taken out of your locker for booking, you sealed the bindles and the coin envelopes and the analyzed evidence envelopes?
I don't seal the bindles. I seal the coin envelopes and the analyzed evidence envelope.
All right, and then on August 3rd, as of August 3rd then, did you still have some items of hair and trace in the bindles that you had collected them in from the various items of evidence in your locker?
I don't believe so. I booked them into ECU on August 2nd.
What about the items 110 through 113? Those would be the hair and trace that you recovered from the gloves and the cap from the Bronco and the blue knit cap.
Could I take just a minute to look at some notes? Those were still in my locker, and those were sealed up with tape, and the analyzed evidence envelope sealed on August 3rd.
So on August 3rd, when you sealed up items 110 through 113, did you seal them in the same manner you've described for the other items?
Yes.
And then what did you do with them?
I was preparing to go to the FBI laboratory, and I don't remember if I replaced those in my evidence locker. I believe I did. Just replaced them in my evidence locker at that time.
Okay, so you just sealed them, you sealed it up, but left it in your locker.
Yes.
And directing your attention then to August 4th, on that date, did you examine the socks recovered from the defendant's bedroom, item number 13?
Yes.
Before you performed this examination, did you put down clean paper?
Yes, I did.
Put on clean gloves?
Or actually, no. Yes and no. Item 13 was being examined by Colin Yamauchi in the serology lab, and he observed some fibrous debris on these socks and thought that I should come over to remove them. So he called me over in Trace and asked me to come to the serology lab. It's a little walk around a corner. Again, the labs are separate rooms within this large building. So I walked over to his lab, the serology lab, and they were already laid out on the table on a clean piece of paper that he had laid out. And I then put on gloves and removed the fibrous debris from the socks.
And was Colin wearing a white lab coat
Yes, he was.
and gloves?
Yes.
And you were too?
Yes.
And you were using clean gloves?
Yes.
What procedure did you use?
The picking off method. I picked off all that I saw on the socks, placed them in a paper bindle, and then the paper bindle was placed in a coin envelope. And that coin envelope was placed in an analyzed evidence envelope all by itself and booked on that same, or actually, the report was written on that day, and I physically took it to the evidence control unit and booked it in on the following day, August 5th. overnight it was kept in my storage locker in the trace unit.
And locked?
Yes.
Okay, we're showing you the photograph that is on the board marked as People's 436. This is for item 221. Okay, this item, can you tell us, first of all, with respect to the bindle above the coin envelope?
That's the bindle that I prepared for the debris I removed from the socks.
Is that your writing on it?
Yes.
And does it contain all the information you placed on it with respect to the
Yes, it does.
data collection and time and what you collected?
Yes.
And is that the item number you assigned to the debris recovered from the defendant's socks?
Yes, it is.
221?
Yes.
And then below that, the coin envelope. Is that the coin envelope into which you placed that bindle?
Yes, it is.
And your writing on it, is that all correct?
Yes.
And to the left of that coin envelope, a white frozen analysis envelope?
Yes.
You caused it to be placed in that envelope?
Yes, I did.
And that's all it contained?
Yes.
And after you completed your examination of the socks, did you check your gloves and the paper for any residual debris?
Yes.
And what did you do with that white envelope? Well, strike that. You closed the bindle, correct?
Yes.
And then when you put it in the coin envelope, did you close the coin envelope?
Yes.
And when you then you put it into the white envelope?
Yes.
And did you close that?
Not until I had assigned an item number to everything in the bindle. Everything in the envelope.
Okay. Well, what was in that envelope?
The hairs, fibers, and debris removed from the socks, item 13.
Okay.
But in order to actually book it and assign a number, I have to go through a number of steps. In this case, I called the detectives, the investigating officers on the case, every time I wanted to book some new evidence. And they would tell me what item number they left off with. And then I would verify that with our evidence control unit, that that was indeed the last item booked. And then I could use the next item in line. So I don't generally know the item I'm going to book it as when I'm collecting off of an item. So I found that out later, marked that information on the bindle, put the bindle in the envelope, sealed it with a piece of tape then, initialed that, placed that in the analyzed evidence envelope, and then I sealed that as well. That was later that day.
Was it on that day or was it on the 5th?
That was on that day, the 4th.
You sealed it all up?
Yes.
And on the 5th, what did you do with that package?
Then I physically took it to the evidence control unit and booked it in as a piece of evidence and also checked it out on that same date.
So what was the purpose of booking it?
So that it was officially in the system as a booked piece of evidence, item numbers assigned to it. I was basically done with the item, but I needed to transport it to the FBI lab. So before I did that, I wanted to make sure there were item numbers assigned to all the items I was transporting.
All right, would this be a good spot?
Can I have 1 minute? I'm just going to mark 2 photographs.
All right.
Thank you. These are already marked on as people 126 and 127. People's 126 up above and 127 below with the number 13 in it. Do those appear to be the socks that you examined for hair and trace on August the 4th?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a brief 10-minute break. Please remember all my admonitions, and Ms. Brockbank, come back in 10 minutes. All right? A scheduling matter for a motion we needed to address on, in my recollection, I think I mentioned to you that on Thursday, We needed to break early because one of the jurors has a medical appointment. I don't recollect what time I told you.
I'm pretty sure you tell us the time.
3 o'clock?
You said 3, Your Honor.
How about 3 o'clock Thursday for the motion?
Which motion is this, Your Honor?
I'll motion to strike and then motion.
How does that sound?
That's the Thano Paratus motion.
Yes,
We
it
really
is.
need to have that resolved as soon as possible, so that if we're gonna have to call him, obviously we wanna fit him in between,
Well, at the rate
the
we're
next two
going,
witnesses.
Record will be over by.
if we hear about another change of gloves,
Well, he would be the next witness, if we're going to have to
there
call
was,
him.
there was a broad hint there. Did you follow your usual procedures?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, all right.
So, can we do it tomorrow?
Well, the problem is we have a full day tomorrow. And on Thursday, we have to break at 3 o'clock because of the juror's medical appointment, so why not do it at 3:15? I don't see us finishing Mr. Diedrich between now and Thursday, frankly.
Also, I need to notify Professor Altman as well.
So this motion right here. While we're doing this, Your Honor, can we inquire of the,
Here's your,
Your Honor, could we inquire of the prosecution as to the remaining witnesses under our 3-day rule so we can figure out where we're going to be? Or we can be prepared or try to prepare for that?
All right, we have Mr. Diedrich coming after Ms. Brockbank, correct?
That's correct, Your Honor. And with respect to any remaining witnesses, can we inform counsel tomorrow morning? Because that will be more than 3 days in
Well,
advance.
how will that be more than 3 days? That will be
Well, how
tomorrow,
many times
Wednesday.
has he changed gloves?
Change gloves. He changes gloves every time he thinks about another item, so.
I understand that, but there are shortcuts to this, you know?
I will,
All right,
and I will.
okay. All right, tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, tell Mr. Cochran who your next 3 witnesses are going to be after Mr. Diedrich.
Okay, well, can we
3 days.
3
worth.
days.
handle the Thana Paratus motion tomorrow morning then? No?
Thursday at 3 o'clock, or 3:15.
Because, I mean, that will have an impact on
Well,
the,
counsel, I just got the papers now. I want to spend the full day in front of the jury. Since we have some downtime Thursday, let's do it Thursday. I get to make the decision Thursday, 3
Yes.
o'clock. All right. Anything else?
yes, no?
All right, let's have the jurors. Ms. Clark, 5:45.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Are you going to be able to finish by then?
I think so.
Is that a break at 5:45 or?
Break at 5:45.
End at 5:45?
Break at 5:45. All right, let's have the jurors. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. All right, let the record reflect we've been rejoined by all the members of our jury panel. And Ms. Brockbank, would you resume the witness stand, please? Ms. Clark.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good evening. It feels like it's 10 o'clock at night. All right. On August the 5th, did you pack everything up for the purpose of taking a trip?
Yes, I did.
And what was that? What trip was that?
I packed up the evidence to be transported by me to the FBI laboratory in Washington, D.C.
Now, what items were they that you took with you to Washington, D.C.?
Shall I give you a list?
Why don't you refer to the board that's been marked as People's 463 and tell us by referring to that board which items, 436, thank you, Your Honor.
May I get up?
If you could just, do you see the items on that board that you took with you?
Yes. I'm a little confused.
Let me help you out. Some of those items on the board you took with you on August 5th and some you did not, correct?
That's correct.
All right, why don't you point out the ones that you did take with you on August 5th? I'm sorry?
Pointer.
Pointer. Would you like a pointer?
A pointer.
Theo.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Can I do this and refer to my notes at the same time? Okay. Item number 19, the hair and trace from number 9. I took that item.
That was the coin envelope that had, into which hair and trace from the Rockingham glove had been placed by Dennis Fung?
Yes.
Okay.
Item 38 is not on the board.
Right.
And,
Did you take actual evidence items also? Not just hair and trace bindles, but also evidence items?
I think the only actual evidence item I took was item 38, which was the knit hat.
The blue knit cap?
Yes.
All right.
Then I took 73 Goldman's hair kit, 83 Nicole's hair kit, and 74, which is also not on the board, which was some hairs, I believe.
Was that a
In a
hair
coin
in a
envelope?
small brown bag that had been placed in the shoe bag for Ron Goldman by the coroner's office?
I don't know where it originated from, but it was a brown bag marked hairs, and it was in with the evidence items taken from Mr. Goldman. Let's see, 83. Did I say 83 already? Nicole's hair kit?
I believe so.
Okay. 110 through 113, all of those items, which are the debris I removed from items 9 and 27, 37, and 38.
Now, let me stop you one second. You had earlier indicated to us that all the bindles were closed up and sealed in coin envelopes, which were placed in analyzed evidence envelopes and sealed, correct?
Yes.
Is that the manner in which they were transported also?
For the majority of the items, yes, but for some items, no.
Tell us when no.
Okay, items 73, 74, and 83 were originally packaged in a larger package with some other items. And those individual envelopes containing evidence, which were individually sealed also, never opened by me, were placed in a manila envelope which I marked on, and the markings were removed from a package that was originally marked to contain these items and some others by me on a certain date. So that was 73, 74, and 83.
And what about 122, the hair sample of Mr. Simpson?
122 was in its original package, and it was not removed from there.
And, excuse me, Ms. Brockbank. Counsel, may it be stipulated that no time did Ms. Brockbank unseal the sealed hair sample envelopes for either Ronald Goldman, Nicole Brown, or the defendant until she arrived at the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
So the exemplars, or the hair samples for the victims and for the defendant were each in their own envelope, correct?
Yes.
And they were each sealed.
Yes. The other items that I took were items 122, which was individually packaged by itself, and then 123 through 130, which are not pictured here on the board. Also item 141, which is not pictured on the board. Items 153 through 169, some of which are pictured on the board. 163, 64, 165, 166, 167, and 169 are included in that group. And item 221. Those are the items that I took to the FBI laboratory.
All right, and did you also take with you to the laboratory the hair and trace recovered from strike that. Did you take with you items 160 through 169?
Yes, I did.
And did you also take with you the bag that originally contained Ron Goldman's shirt from the coroner's office?
The bag itself? No.
Did you, oh, I'm sorry. Let me ask you a different question. You indicated that you recovered debris from the bag that originally contained Ron Goldman's shirt from the coroner's office, and you collected that into a bindle.
Yes.
Did you take that with you as well, that bindle?
Yes.
That was item number 165?
Yes.
All right, the item number 33 that we've referred to earlier, I'm sorry, you can have a seat. Item number 33 that we've referred to earlier, that piece of carpet that appeared to you to have a bloody shoe print, did you take that with you to?
Sustain, rephrase question, please.
You indicated earlier that item number 33 was a piece of carpet on which you observed what appeared to you to be some kind of a bloody imprint?
Yes.
And did you take that piece of carpet with you to Washington, D.C.?
No, I did not.
All right, you had basically all of these analyzed evidence envelopes that were sealed, and then you had the knit cap, the blue knit cap in a bag.
Yes, that bag was removed from the box that it was originally packaged in, placed into a manila envelope, which I labeled that I removed from that box on that date, and it was sealed by me, also on that date.
And what did you do with all those items?
All of those items were placed into a paper bag, which I then put in my carry-on bag, basically, to take on the plane with me when I flew back to Washington.
Okay. And when did you fly back to Washington?
I flew out on August 7th. I stopped by the laboratory on my way to the airport and picked up the evidence. In the meantime, between August 5th and August 7th, it was stored in the serology freezer. And picked it up, went to the airport, transported it back to Washington. Again, it was my hand carry luggage. And arrived in Washington on August 8th. and delivered that evidence to Doug Diedrich at the FBI laboratory,
Personally?
personally.
Now, when you indicate that you left were all of the items put into the brown paper bag, and that big brown bag was kept in the serology freezer until the 7th?
Yes.
And was it sealed?
Yes, I had taped over the top of it.
Did you have your initials on that tape?
Yes.
When you returned to pick it up on the 7th on your way to the airport, did you examine the seal?
Yes.
Was it intact?
Yes.
Had not been broken?
No.
When you got to the FBI and you delivered the brown bag containing all of these envelopes to Mr. Diedrich, what did you do with him?
We inventoried the evidence together. That's when he assigned all of his Q and K numbers and wrote his initials on all the packages. Just basically inventoried what was there. And since I had taken the red eye out, I was not the most coherent person that day. So after inventorying the evidence, I went to my hotel and slept.
Okay. So did you actually, but you were present for the inventory procedure?
Yes, I was.
And you observed him to initial and itemize or label each of these items as either a Q number or a K number?
Yes.
And what is the Q number? What does a Q mean?
Q is questioned, and K is known, as
No-
far as source goes. So you
And-
have a questioned source or a known source.
What would be an example of a known source?
The head hair sample I took from Mr. Simpson would be a known source. Those hairs are known to have come from his head.
And the question source would be an example of that?
An example of a questioned source would be one of those items found out at the crime scene. Some of those hairs, let's say the hairs in the knit cap, those would be a questioned item.
Okay, the following day, did you return to the FBI?
Yes, I did.
And then did Doug ask you to do something?
Yes, he had me assisting him by mounting the known hair standards from each of the victims and Mr. Simpson.
And what procedure did you follow for the mounting of those hairs? Who did you do first and how did you do it?
I don't believe I really took many or any notes while I mounted them. Let me just do a little check here. I really don't remember which order I mounted them in.
Can you explain the procedure you used?
Yes, I tried to follow the FBI's mounting procedure, which is just a little different than my own. You're using the same microscope slide and the glass cover slip. That part's the same. Per mount, that part is the same. But what they do is they'll put just a drop of a chemical called xylene on the microscope slide, and that just helps you kind of tack down the hairs so they don't, slide off of the microscope slide while you're in the mounting process. And they prefer to mount several hairs per slide, whereas at LAPD I had previously mounted maybe 1 to 5 hairs per slide, generally. I would space them out, but the FBI actually mounts several hairs per slide. So I did that, mounting several hairs per slide, using the xylene to tack down the hairs, and then blotting off the xylene with a piece of blotting paper. And then I add the per mount, place the cover slip over it, and the hairs are mounted.
And so that you followed the procedures outlined to you by Mr. Diedrich?
Yes.
Okay. In between the mounting of each hair sample, that is, for example, after you mounted the defendant's hairs, what, if any, preparations did you make before beginning to mount the next, say, the hairs of Mr. Goldman?
Objection. She was back on the evidence. She said you didn't know what order she did. Sustained.
Okay. In between the mounting of different people's known hairs, did you do anything?
Well, I only had one person's hair sample out at any given time. And in between those hair samples, I changed my gloves. I don't remember the examination paper I had. I believe they have like a bench coat paper there, and I mounted them on that same bench coat paper, but changed my gloves in between samples.
Okay. Now, between August 16th and August 18th, were other items requested to be sent to the FBI from LAPD?
Other items were requested. I don't specifically recall which date. It was while I was there, sometime between August 8th and August 19th.
Somewhere between August 8th and 19th?
Yes.
All right. Counsel, may it be stipulated that on August 11th, criminalist Ronald Raquel, assigned to the hair and trace unit of SID, collected exemplars of the carpet fibers from the defendant's Bronco in a forensically and scientifically appropriate manner, which would be LAPD item numbers 226, 227, 228, 230, and 231, and that those items of evidence were properly packaged and transported to the FBI for examination. May it also be stipulated that on November 21st, 1994, criminalist Raquel also collected the hair exemplar of LAPD criminalist Susan Brockbank, LAPD item number 360, in a forensically and scientifically appropriate manner, and that the evidence was properly packaged and transported to the FBI for examination.
So stipulated.
All right. Thank you, counsel. As you recollect, I instructed you previously that a stipulation is agreement between the parties as to the facts, and you are to assume those facts to be true for the purpose of this trial. Thank you, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. One more while we're at it. May it be further stipulated that on August 15th, 1994, criminalist Colin Yamauchi collected fabric samples in a forensically and scientifically appropriate manner from Nicole Brown Simpson's dress, item number 86, Ron Goldman's pants, item number 79, and Ron Goldman's shirt, item number 81, and that those items of evidence were properly packaged and transported to the FBI for examination.
So stipulated.
All right. Thank you, counsel. Proceed.
Thank you, Ron. Now, with respect to the item numbers on the board next to you, specifically items 226 to 231, did you receive those from the LAPD while you were still at the FBI?
They were received by Mr. Diedrich, not by myself.
Okay, were you not present?
I was present, but he is the one that actually received them.
You saw them there?
Yes.
And are you looking at those items on the chain board, People's 436?
Yes.
Are those, in fact, the items that were received at the FBI? You can get down and look if you need to. Bless you.
226 through 231? Yes.
While you're there, with respect to item number 79, shown there as Goldman pant fabric sample, item number 81, Goldman shirt fabric sample, and item number 86, Nicole dress fabric sample, and the K numbers assigned, that is K17, 18, and 19. Can you tell us if exemplars from each of those three clothing items were received at the FBI while you were there?
Again, they were received by Mr. Diedrich, not by myself.
You saw them there, though?
Yes.
Ms. Clark, I think perhaps we ought to take the board, since now we've now talked about just about everything that's there, because some of the items are very small and you have it mounted low. Perhaps we should exhibit the full board down to the other side of the jury box, since they haven't been able to see some of the lower items.
Right. Thank you, Ron.
All right.
Thank you, Your Honor. And when is it that you left the FBI?
On August 19th.
All right, moving forward to December 20th of 1994. On that date, were you being visited by Mr. Diedrich at the LAPD SID lab?
Let me see. Yes, I was.
And did you show him some items at that time?
Yes.
What did you show him?
Well, I showed him item numbers 9, which is the glove, 27, the hat, and 37, a glove.
The item number 27, is that the cap from the Bronco?
Yes,
Okay, so you showed him both gloves and the cap found in the Bronco.
yes.
And where were they being kept?
They were being stored in the serology freezer still.
Everything still in the original packages as well?
Yes,
Sealed?
yes.
On October 3rd, I forgot to ask you this, let me back up for a second. On October 3rd of 1994, do you recall getting a phone call from an employee of the coroner's office by the name of Steve Dowell?
On October 3rd, yes, I did.
And did he, based on that phone call, did you then visit the coroner's office on October 4th?
Yes,
Was something pointed out to you by Mr. Dowell?
yes.
What was pointed out?
He was examining a tissue sample that was in a jar when he noticed a fiber on this tissue sample. So he contacted me and had me come over so that we could photograph it and he could release that item, that fiber, to me.
Tell us what you saw.
A single blue fiber, very tiny. It took it took a lot from him for me to actually see the fiber. It was so tiny. It was on this piece of tissue that he was examining, and he had to point at it while I looked through the microscope in order for me to see it. It was just so small to see.
Even under the microscope.
Yes.
And when you say this piece of tissue, what are you referring to?
It was an excised piece of tissue, part of the throat area from Nicole Simpson.
And it had been, that piece of tissue had been stored in a jar?
Yes.
Okay, when you examined it on the slide, was that mounted on per-mount?
No. When Steve removed it from the tissue and placed it on a slide,